Well, class, today we're going to talk about white supremacy and how that shit is absolutely made up and we've all been psyoped into believing that it exists. The whole idea of white supremacy comes from this understanding that America in its past was not favorable to minority groups with darker skin. But where this whole idea comes crumbling down is when you realize that America's history is a lot more complex than white people have always hated black people. For example, it took a while for Europeans to even identify as white. The first time the term white was legally used in the American colonies was the late 17th century. And it was the mid to late 18th century before people like Benjamin Franklin would use the word white in their writings. And it was the early 20th century when America saw its largest influx in European immigration. And most of those individuals didn't identify as white, they identified with their home country just like immigrants of today do. Those countries included Italy, Ireland, Russia, Poland, Hungary, to name a few. And just so you know, there was racial tension amongst those groups as well that had existed way before America was even thought of. So the moral of the story is this whole idea of white supremacy is really like a nothing burger. It would be extremely difficult to find anyone of European descent in America that believes white people are somehow supreme. If you were to find a person that believed that, or even a group of people, they would be an extreme outlier. But let's call a spade a spade. The whole idea of white supremacy being an issue in America is really just a liberal talking point that presents things in a way that sits them on a moral high ground. If anything, minority supremacy is a bigger issue. As a black man, I could go on television right now and say I'm proud to be black and no one would say anything. But if my skin color was different and I was white and I went on television and said the same exact words, I would be called a racist. Is that fair? Is that Martin Luther King's dream? I would say no, and I think that the bigger issue is that as a black man, if I call these things out, then I'm labeled as a coon. And I'm ostracized by black society and no longer have a seat at the table because I'm not black enough. And my answer to that is I don't care. I'm human enough to be honest and have integrity and call things as I see them. And not just side with other black people because that's the norm. I would love it if this video would just end the entire discussion, but I know it won't. So let me know what you guys think.